Alright, you guys, welcome back to my channel, in which I read to you. So yesterday we left off at the very, very bottom of page 63, so if you can go ahead and turn your books to page 63. What was happening in the last 10 pages is that Bud's friend from the orphanage, found Bud, and they decided to kind of become brothers and be on the run together, and they're going to go try to hop on a train to go out west. So let's see how this works out for them. We're at the bottom of page 63. We found out that we'd have to go to a city called Hooverville, just outside of Flint. The only trouble was, turn the page, nobody knew exactly where Hooverville was. It was dark before we found out the right direction. I'd never heard of a city that was so doggone hard to find. We walked on a trail through some woods that run right up against Thread Creek. We could tell we were getting close to Hooverville because we heard somebody playing a mouth organ, and the smell of food cooking was getting stronger. We kept walking in the direction that the sky was glowing with an orangish light. When we could hear the music real clear and folks talking to each other and the sound of sticks cracking in a fire, we started cutting through the trees. That way we could peek into Hooverville first. We looked out from behind a big tree and saw that a big wind, or even 2 or 3 big wolves huffing and puffing real hard, could blow Hooverville into the next county. It was a bunch of huts and shacks throwed together out of pieces of boxes and wood and cloth. The Amos's shed would have looked like a real fancy house here. Right near our tree was the big fire that had been lighting up the sky. It looked like 100 people were sitting around it, watching things burn or waiting for the food cooking in 3 big pots set up in the fire. There were 2 littler fires burning in Hooverville. One had a pot that was big enough to boil a whole person in it. A man was stirring things in the pot with a big stick, and when he raised the stick up, he'd pull some breeches out or a shirt out and pass it over to a white man who was hanging the clothes on a line to dry. There was a mountain of clothes on the ground next to him waiting for their turn. The other fire in Hooverville was real small. It was off to the side by itself. There were 5 white people sitting at this fire, 2 kids, a man, and a woman holding a little wrapped-up baby. The baby sounded like all those new sick babies at the home. It was coughing like it was half-dead little animal. Bugs whispered, "Shoot! This ain't no city. This is just another cardboard jungle." "A what?" "A cardboard jungle. Somewhere you can get off the train and clean up and get something to eat without the cops chasing you out of town." I said, "Well, what are we gonna do? We can't just go busting into this city and expect someone to feed us, can we?" Bugs said, "Well, one of us has to talk to them. Let's flip for it." "Okay." Bugs rumbled around in his pocket and found a penny. He rubbed it up against his breeches and said, heads I win, tails you lose." "Okay." He flipped the penny up into the air and caught it, then slapped it down on the back of his left hand. He peeked underneath his right hand to see, and a big smile cracked on his face. "Shucks." Bud said, "Tails, you lose." "Dang. So what should I say?" "Ask them if this is Hooverville. See if they got any extra food." I moved out from behind our tree and walked over toward the biggest fire. I waited until some folks noticed me and then said, "Excuse me, is this here Hooverville?" The man who was playing the mouth organ stopped, and everyone else around the fire looked up at me. One of the white men said, "What is it you looking for?" I said, "A city called Hooverville, sir." They all laughed. The mouth organ man said, "Naw, son. What you're looking for is Hooverville with a V, like in President Herbert Hoover." I said, "Oh, is this it, sir?" The man said, "This is one of them." I said, "One of them?" He answered, "They're all over the country. This here is the Flint version. And all of them are called Hooverville? That's right. Mr. Hoover works so hard at making sure every city has got one that seems like it would be criminal to call them anything else. Someone said, "That's the truth." I said, "Well, how are we going to know if we're in the right one?" The mouth organ man said, "Are you hungry?" "Yes, sir." "Are you tired?" "Yes, sir." "Are you scared about what's going to happen tomorrow?" I didn't want anyone to think I was a baby, so I said, "Not exactly, sir. Maybe I am a little bit nervous." The man smiled and said, "Well, son, any place where there are other folks in need of the same things that you are is the right place to be. This is exactly the Hooverville you're looking for." I knew what the man was trying to say. This was the exact kind of circle talking and cross talking that Mama used to do. Bugs hadn't had that kind of practice. He came from behind the tree and said, "I don't get it. You said there were Hoovervilles all over the place. What if we was looking for the Hooverville in Detroit or Chicago? How could this be the right one to be in?" The man said, "You boys from Flint?" I said, "Yes, sir." The man waved his mouth organ like a magic wand and pointed it all over the little cardboard city. "Boys," he said, "look around you." The city was bigger than I thought it was. The raggedy little huts were in every direction you looked. Page 68. And there were more people sitting around than I first thought, too. Mostly it was men and big boys, but there were a couple of women every now and then and a kid or two. They were all the colors you could think of, black, white, and brown, but the fire made everyone look like they were different shades of orange. There were dark orange folks sitting next to medium orange folks sitting next to light orange folks. "All these people," the mouth organ man said, "are just like you. They're tired, hungry, and a little bit nervous about tomorrow. This here is the right place for y'all to be 'cause we're all in the same boat. And you boys are nearer to home than you'll ever get." Someone said, "Amen, brother." The mouth organ man said, "It don't matter if you're looking for Chicago or Detroit or Orlando or Oklahoma City. I rode the rails to all of them. You might think or you might hear that things are better just down the line, but they're singing the same sad song all over this country. Believe me, son, being on the road is no good. If you two boys are from Flint, this is the right Hooverville for you." Someone said, "Brother, why don't we feed these boys? That one looks like he ain't ate in 2 or 3 months. Shucks, he didn't have to point or nothing. Everyone knew who he meant. But I didn't care. The food that was bubbling up in those 3 big pots even sounded delicious. Page 69. The mouth organ man said, "You're welcome to join us, but we all pitch in here, so unless either of you is carrying one of them smoked West Virginia hams in them bags, it looks like you'll be pulling KP tonight." I said, "Pulling what, sir?" He said, "KP, Kitchen Police. You do the cleanup after everyone's had their fill. There are a couple of other young folks who'll show you what you have to do." Me and Bugs both said, "Yes, sir." This seemed like a real good trade. A woman handed me and Bugs each a flat, square, empty tin can. "That, my lords, is your china. Please be careful not to chip it." My china had the words Jumbo A&P Sardines stamped into the bottom of it. She handed us 2 beat-up old spoons and said, "Don't be shy. You two just about missed supper. You'd best hurry up." She took us over to one of the big pots and filled up our tin plates. "You're lucky," she said. "It's muskrat stew, and there's plenty left over tonight. Eat as much as you can." The stew was made out of dandelion greens and a couple of potatoes and some small wild carrots and some crawdads and a couple of little chunks of meat. It tasted great. We both even got seconds. When we were done, the woman told us, "You boys leave your bags here. It's time to do the dishes now." Page 70. Uh-oh. "Ma'am, I like to keep my suitcase with me wherever I go." "I promise you your suitcase will be safe here." I remembered the Amoses had promised the same thing. I said, "You'll watch it yourself, ma'am? You'll make sure no one looks inside of it?" She said, "Son, we don't have no thieving in here. We all look out for each other." I said, "Thank you, ma'am," and I put my suitcase down near the woman's feet. Me, Bugs, and a little white boy and a little girl loaded a whole mess of dirty tin cans and spoons and a couple of real plates and forks into a big wooden box and lugged them down to Thread Creek. The little girl had been in Hooverville the longest, so she got to tell the rest of us what to do. She said, "I don't suppose neither of you new boys knows how to do the dishes the right way, do you?" Me and Bugs had done tons of dishes in the home, so I said, "Sure we do. We used to be real good at cleaning up." Bugs said, "Dang, girl, you act like this is the first cardboard jungle I've been in. I know how you do dishes out here." She said, "Okay then, we'll split them up. You and you," she pointed at Bugs and the other kid, "can do half, and me and this boy can do the others. What's your name?" I said, "Bud, not Buddy." She said, "I'm Deza Malone." Deza handed Bugs and the other little boy some rags and some soap powder, and they started splashing the dishes in the water. Me and the girl walked a little farther up the creek and started unloading the rest of the dishes. "You'll dry, and I'll wash," she said. She handed me a rag, and just as soon as she'd splash one of the tin cans in the water and give it to me, I'd dry it and stick it in the wooden box. She said, "Where you say you was from?" "Flint, right here." "So you and your friend come down here to get on that train tomorrow?" "Where's it going?" "Chicago," she said. "Is that west from here?" "Uh-huh." "Then, yep, that's where we're heading," I said. "Where are you from?" "Lancaster, Pennsylvania." "You going to take the train too?" She said, "Uh-huh, my daddy is. Folks say there's work out west, so he's going to try again." "So you're going to wait here for him?" "Uh-huh." She was real fast at washing the dishes, but I noticed, page 72, she got kind of slow and was touching my hand a lot when it came to giving me... Sorry, I'm going to repeat that sentence. She was real fast at washing the dishes, but I noticed she got kind of slow and was touching my hand a lot when it came to giving them to me. Ooh. She said, "Where's your mama and daddy?" "My mother died 4 years ago." "I'm sorry to hear that." "It's okay. She didn't suffer or nothing." "So where's your daddy?" "I think he lives in Grand Rapids. I never met him." "Sorry to hear that." Shucks, she held right onto my hand when she said that. I squirmed my hand loose and said, "That's okay too." Deza said, "No, it's not. And you should quit pretending that it is." "Who said I'm pretending anything?" "I know you are. My daddy says families are the most important thing there is. That's why me and my mama are going to wait together for him to come back or write for us to come to him." I said, "My mother said the same thing, that families should be there for each other all the time. She always used to tell me that no matter where I went or what I did, that she'd be there for me. Even if she wasn't somewhere that I could see her, she told me..." Shucks, there were some folks who will have you running your mouth before you know what you're doing. I quit talking and acted like I was having a real hard time drying the tin can she just handed me. Page 73. "What'd she tell you, Bud?" I looked at Deza Malone and figured I'd never see her again in my life, so I kept shooting off my mouth. She would tell me every night before I went to sleep that no matter what happened, I could sleep knowing that there had never been a little boy, anywhere, anytime, who was loved more than she loved me. She told me that as long as I remembered that, I'd be okay. And you knew it was the truth? Just as much as I know my name's Bud, not Buddy. She said, don't you have no other kin here in Flint? No. I guess I can't blame you for wanting to ride the rails. My mama says these poor kids on the roads all alone are like dust in the wind. But I guess you're different, aren't you, Bud? I guess you sort of carry your family around inside of you, huh? I guess I do. Inside my suitcase, too. She said, so you've been staying in an orphanage since your mama died? What makes you say that? Well, you're kind of skinny, but I can tell by the way you talk and the way you act that you haven't been out on the road for very long. You still look young. I said, shucks, I'm not all that young. I'm going to be 11 on November 14th, and I'm not skinny, I'm wiry. Some folks think I'm a hero. Page 74. So, Mr. Hero, we're the same age, but you have been staying in an orphanage. I've been staying in a home. My daddy says being on the road ain't fit for a dog, much less a kid. How come you don't just go back to your orphanage? She started up touching my hand too much again. Deza Malone seemed like she was all right, so I came clean with her. Don't tell no one, but I lit out from a foster home, so I'm on the lam. And I wouldn't go back to the home even if I could. It's getting so there's too many kids in there. So, that's better than being cold and hungry all the time and dodging the railroad police. What do you mean? You don't think they just let people jump on the trains, do you? Well, I guess I hadn't thought about it. See, I knew you were too nice to have been out on the road. You're going to have a bad surprise tomorrow morning. That won't bother me too much. She said, oh yeah, I forgot. You're a hero to some folks. When Deza smiled, a little dimple jumped up on her brown cheek. I didn't answer. I just kept drying tin cans. We got to the last 4 or 5 tin can plates, and Deza said, you ever kiss a girl at the orphanage? Yup, we're stopping right there. We'll see what happens after Deza asks Bud that tomorrow.